Hey, what's up, everyone? Mike Carson here, and today we'll be doing a throwing mechanics breakdown on Tom Brady. This is going to be really focusing on the deep ball and some of the things that he does within his deep ball. I actually did a video about this a few years ago. I rewatched it. I really didn't like it. I wasn't communicating well. I think some of the things that stood out were not properly communicated, and so I think this one will be a lot better, a lot more beneficial for you, and should make it so you can throw the ball a lot further very quickly. So let's hop right into it. Obviously, Tom Brady does a lot of really good things within his overall throwing motion, but we really want to be able to look at, to me, this back foot. And what's interesting about it is we can see as he's kind of hitching into it, and we can see how he does this a good amount of times. Then we can do a couple different videos here, or a couple different examples. But notice how his foot's kind of facing in, and then when he hits, we can see a kind of rotation outwards, and this allows him to get a lot of power into that back leg, and he does it again here. See that foot goes and turns in, and then as he's loading, he kind of twists that foot out, bends into that back knee again. And I recently did a Michael Vick video. We could see that, and both of them had a really long stride here, so we could see that big stride and a lot of rotation in that back knee. I think both of those guys, and I think it's something, if you're a quarterback and you want to throw the ball further, you got to look to see and work on what you're doing within that back leg as you're loading. First, bending that knee a good amount, and then really rotating through there. Where there's some differences is going to be what happens from there. We can see with Tom Brady, he really emphasizes getting a lot of height into his elbow. He doesn't get as much of his weight all the way through as we saw Michael Vick. And Michael Vick, I would say, doesn't get as much height with his elbow. He gets more elbow coming straight forward as he's coming through the throw. But we can see what Tom Brady does a good job of is still getting his weight all the way forward, even though he's kind of leaning a little bit more off to the side here. Let's use a different example. Take another look. And not all of them do they have the same degree of kind of turning in with that back foot. We can see again here, the foot's turned in a little bit as he's loading. Doesn't have to throw the ball as far, but notice what he does with that back leg. He turns here, and then he shifts his weight onto that front leg, and then from there gets a little bit of like an extension out of that front knee as he's slightly leaning over the side. I don't think that's necessarily as effective. I do think, looking at Michael Vick and what he does, where he kind of keeps that front knee a little bit more bent and kind of rotates through, ends up being more effective for most guys. I mean, the difference with Michael Vick is he's closer to would be my size, 6 feet. I think a lot of guys that are watching this to play quarterback are going to be, 6'2" to maybe 5'10", and so they're going to benefit a little bit more from some of the things that, again, Michael Vick does, just because we're just not all going to be as long. We see a lot of these taller quarterbacks will go and really utilize that extension of that front knee to be able to generate some power there, which again doesn't always work for I think shorter quarterbacks. So again, we can see here, and this is, I think, a better example, a little bit better with keeping that knee straight. But we can still see what he does as he's like dragging that back leg. And again, notice how he's rotating, but he still like pushes off. He gets like so much rotation off of that back leg. And I think that's an important thing to notice, is what he's doing there. That's why I keep on mentioning it, is he turns so much his pinky toe is actually like scraping the ground as he's coming forward, and like kind of that outside part of the foot. So that just gives you an idea of how much rotation he's creating there. And then he comes all the way through. Another thing that I think is important to understand when you look at like the extension of the arm, and as he's coming all the way through the throw, how he does that to make it so then he can get a good flick on the ball. And I know this is not the greatest quality video here, but we've seen in the past how he does do a good job of being able to get that nose of the football all the way around as he's going to release the ball. So just to showcase the throw a little bit better, this is from a Tom Brady video done not too long ago, a little bit better quality video, so we could really see what he's doing with the arm, with the wrist, as he's going through that kind of final stage of the throw. So notice here, he's getting that elbow all the way around, all the way forward, and getting that wrist in a position where the nose is facing forward and through, to then release the ball. We can see that flick of the wrist as the ball comes off of the hand, and then how he goes and uses that index finger as that last part of the hand that's actually on the ball as he's finishing the throw. You can also see that front arm very controlled. You can also see that when he's throwing the ball here, he's much more kind of bent in that front knee. When we saw the deeper throws, he's getting more extension. So we know he's not throwing the ball as far in this particular throw, but I think it's still helpful to be able to see from a wrist perspective, as well as from kind of an elbow perspective in that really slow motion view of what he's doing. This is again what some of the differences are with him and like Michael Vick, where Michael Vick got a lot more kind of elbow through right away, where Tom Brady gets more of that elbow kind of up and then is coming more down on the ball as it's coming out of his hands, where Michael Vick is a little bit more of like a rotational guy, so he's getting the elbow through and then he's extending, and then the ball's gonna and the arm's gonna end up going a little bit more off to the side. Where with Tom Brady in the deep throw, he'll go a little bit more to the side in terms of his spine, and we see more of like the arm go right forward and through as he is releasing it there. So some differences in terms of the mechanics. Is not necessarily wrong or bad or anything like that. It's just some things that kind of change from not only from Tom Brady throwing the ball underneath and deep, and even over the course of his career probably made some adjustments, but also kind of comparing it to Michael Vick and his throws. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like the information, click that thumbs up. Also check out some of the programs we have in the description down below. I know the seasons are kind of coming to an end, so there's going to be some more people that are interested in working on the mechanics, getting better within the wrist flick, the deep ball, all that type of good stuff. You can check out the description to find out more about how we could help you in your own throw. Talk to you soon.